allegations that have come forward. So as you might recall, back in the end of January, we made a really critical and important announcement that we have brought together all of our law enforcement agencies, and there's 9 of them in Ramsey County, and that we would investigate any allegations or reports of felonious conduct by federal law enforcement officials as a part of Operation Metro Surge. And through that, a number of victims have come forward. And one of the things that we really want to maintain and further is a victim-centered approach. So as victims have come forward, we work with them, trying to provide, getting them connected to services, as well as making sure that the victims who are reporting what has happened to them want us to move forward. And there's complexity with regard to that situation. In many instances, we're talking about people who may not have documented status, may be vulnerable in other ways. And so in many of those instances, we very much defer to what the victim or the reporter wants us to do. And so we have met them with services and supports. And then, of course, the law enforcement agencies have received a number of police reports. They have opened actual CNs. And we have diligently been working on trying to get to the truth. This is not about any type of predetermined agenda other than to seek the truth and to investigate the facts. And we have, I believe, in the state of Minnesota, a sovereign right and a huge public interest to have a local investigation around those laws. And obviously there is complexity with regard to the state and federal dynamic, and I wish we were at a place where we were historically and traditionally, where we cooperate with one another. We share facts, right? We want to all collectively get to the truth, and if there are laws that have been violated, we want to figure that out and then do whatever is right to have that accountability that I think that our public expects. So today, we're here to talk about, and I should tell you that in Ramsey County, there are 2 active investigations. And there are 3 what I would call preliminary investigations where we know of certain facts, but we want the victim to want us to move forward. So in those instances, they're really in the preliminary status. But there are 2 active investigations, and there are actual CNs. One of those investigations involves a victim by the name of Scott Tao. And that is an investigation that is conducted by our Ramsey County Sheriff's Department. And I want to thank them for just the diligence and the work of gathering the facts. I don't believe there are more facts out there that we could actually get from the public, but I am asking the public if anybody has any information about that particular incident. And this was the incident involving Scott Tao, a United States citizen, who was forcibly removed from his home. And we believe that there was no legitimate legal reason for the federal agents to enter that home. It was not supported by probable cause and in violation of our United States Constitution. And then he was forcibly removed from his home and taken out in freezing weather in his Crocs and a pair of shorts. And I think the sheriff will talk a little bit more about that case, but there are pictures here with regard to that incident. And he was questioned in the car away from his home for, we think, for over an hour. So we think that we have much of the facts, but there's still more facts that we need. And so today is also about calling upon the federal government to share the information that we have requested from them. We will pass out, and the sheriff will reference a letter that the agency has sent to the federal government. And in addition to that, we have undertaken the steps that are necessary to bring this to a head. And so one of those is to ask for to officially send a TUI demand letter. And Hao Win is going to talk a little bit about the significance of that process. But again, we want to make it really clear that we want to show the work that we have, but we also need that federal cooperation. And I think another more important part of your reporting today that's really important is that, so this case involves a felonious allegation of kidnapping, illegal detainment, right? False imprisonment. We are very, very interested in those types of fact scenarios and cases, and so we encourage, if there's anybody that's listening, and if this happened to you, that you simply make a report to any of the 9 public police agencies that we have, and they have agreed that they will investigate those cases and do whatever we can to get to the truth and hold people accountable. And when, as we work with law enforcement, again, we have a very victim-centered approach where in determining about what we do next, after we gather some of those facts and receive those reports, we will work with victims in determining whether what we do next, which I think is a really important thing that people should understand. And I believe that if we can connect them to civil attorneys and have some of these conversations, there could actually be more protections for a victim that would come forward under this type of situation. And so if they do come forward, we'll connect them to civil legal services so that they can get that type of legal advice that they need to make those decisions, and then tell us, to inform us what they would like to see happen in those particular cases. So next, I'm going to turn it over to Hao Win to talk a little bit about when we sent the TUI demand and why that is so critical. So Hao?
Thank you, County Attorney John Choi, and thank you, Sheriff Fletcher, for the work and the leadership that you've done. My name is Hao Wen. I'm the Trial Division Director and the Appellate Unit Director for our Ramsey County Attorney's Office. I've been a prosecutor now for 16 years, and before that, a police officer. John is absolutely correct. In historical times and regular course of actions, we work hand in hand with the federal government to investigate cases and to make sure that justice is done. This is unprecedented, as John spoke about. So for us to be on the other side of things or on the other side of the investigation is problematic, especially when we're seeking justice. One of the ways that we do that is that we are asking for information sharing. It's a case from 1955. It's called TUI v. Reagan. I'm not going to go down the criminal law aspect of it. We'd be here for a few hours. But it's important that this letter was sent, and we sent that demand on March 20th of 2026 to the Department of Homeland Security, as well as to the U.S. Attorney's District here in Minnesota. That letter outlines what we're concerned about, and that letter can be found online as well. But particularly what we're asking for is are the police reports or federal police law enforcement reports authored by the Department of Homeland Security. We know there are reports. There's just no way that there aren't. We want also to know who was working that day, who was working that month, where did they report to, who did they report to. We also want to understand what recordings might be out there in terms of digital recordings, witness interviews, video recordings. So all of that information becomes very necessary for us to be able to process if there were crimes violated at the state level. Now, I think it's important to be clear that we, as the state of Minnesota, have a sovereign immunity under the 10th Amendment of the Constitution to be able to enforce and investigate criminal violations of state law. And to that end, we aim to do that. But that letter outlines and demands and requests that information. We've given until April 30th for the federal government to give us that information, and part of this process is ongoing. That being said, our team, and I'm really proud of my team, that involves prosecutors here in this office as well as local law enforcement to continue the investigation. Parts of my team, we have gone and federally gotten ourselves licensed to practice in federal court. So one of the things here that we anticipate is an enforcement of a of a state violation. So kidnapping, false imprisonment, things of that nature. If we do come up with a charge, and again, we have no preconceived notions of that, but once we get information, and if we're able to do that, we would like to be able to prosecute the cases in federal court, and our team is ready to do so. I'm going to pass it now to Sheriff Fletcher.
You guys did an amazing job. Thank you for your summary. There are many facts we don't know yet, but there's one that we do know, and that is that Mr. Tao is and has been an American citizen. There's not a dispute over that. There's no dispute that he was taken out of his house, forcibly taken out of his home, and driven around. And you can ask yourself, as you look at those pictures, is that good law enforcement to take an American citizen out of their home and drive them around aimlessly trying to determine what they can tell them? So we have attempted on numerous occasions, actually, I'm going to put these on the chair here. There's a letter that we sent to the federal government in February. Josh met with the ICE representatives. When did you meet? What month?
Early March.
Early March, asking for information. Basically, really all we want is reports. It's real simple. Just give us your reports and all the other data that he was talking about. Here's the thing. There are limits on ICE authority, just like there are limits on ours. We operate in that environment on a daily basis, knowing that we're limited by the Constitution, by laws, both federal and state, and we abide by them. When someone breaches those limits of authority, there are consequences. There are checks and balances. There is a federal court system that can provide a check and balance to ICE, but also the state and local authorities have the authority to provide a check and balance to what ICE does. When citizens call us and they say, hey, we think our rights have been abused, we have an obligation to follow up and find out what happened. So you've heard the term back in January, absolute immunity. There is no such thing as absolute immunity for federal agents. There is qualified immunity for all law enforcement in a lot of different capacities. But seizing a person out of their home who's an American citizen, they're not immune from that. So yes, we've taken this very seriously, and we followed up with the victim, the witnesses, and when we attempt to gather information from the federal government, we have not been successful. So this is the only route available, is to take the TUI request into federal court. John?
And I, just in closing, before we stand for questions, I just also want to make it very clear that we are going to be dogged in our pursuit of the truth. And so that means utilizing every available avenue of truth finding and accountability. So that could include convening a Ramsey County jury. It could include a federal lawsuit where we would seek that information from the federal government. I also want to make it very clear that we are not going to let this go. And what that means is that this could take a long time. And I believe that the statute of limitations in these cases can be told. And the reason why it can be told is if there's fraud or concealment done by the actors that make it difficult for us to get to the truth, then we will use every legal argument that we have to make sure that we will find what happened, find out what happened, find out the truth, have an investigation that's thorough, and then, if appropriate, seek accountability under Minnesota law. And I think, as people talked about, we have a sovereign right in this state to enforce our own laws. So thank you very much.
Do you have enough authority under state law? Because lawmakers are working right now to rewrite state law to give you the authority, because they were saying there isn't enough accountability in current law to go after federal.
I think that there's more than enough law to go. I mean, in terms of what we need to do, I think the difficulty right now is more about fact gathering. in terms of making sure that we have that cooperation, or if we don't have that cooperation, then what happens is that we will be litigating, and it will be up to a judge. I don't think it would be any different, other than the fact that I think we have a federal administration that is trying to obstruct the fact-finding.
Mr. Strick, do you have the identities of any of the agents who were present in the incident that day? I see in the photos that some of them are unmasked. And I'm wondering if you could address whether you may join the effort underway by the Attorney General and Mary Moriarty's office to bring suit in federal court in D.C. and to compel the government to share information.
I'll let you answer the second part. We do not have the identity of the agents. We have asked for their identity. We tracked the license plates of the cars that were there at the scene, and we determined shortly thereafter that the license plates had been placed on different vehicles. So that made it more difficult for us to ascertain who was driving the cars on that day and time. We did attempt to actually locate those cars shortly thereafter, but once the plates were changed, that became a much more difficult operation.
Is that a violation of the law in and of itself?
I would think so.
Well, I think
Well,
there's a-
he had a second part.
Dennis, there was a second part of the question, which I think is an important one, too. So as we talked about the TUI demand letter, that is a first step to commencing a civil lawsuit. So an option could be that we could join in the efforts that are happening right now in D.C. as a part of the good work of our county attorney and state attorney general and our BCA, who are plaintiffs in that lawsuit. So there's one avenue where we could join in that particular lawsuit. But in order to do that, we, with regard to this investigation, the TUI demand letter is a critical first step. We could also separately sue the federal government for this information in federal court, whether that's here or in D.C. Another avenue would be the convening of a Ramsey County grand jury to seek the truth, to subpoena this information, and then it would be up to the federal government to sue us, to stop us from what we are trying to do, which is very simply to represent the public interest, to seek the truth, and to uphold Minnesota law.
Vice Mayor, then Louis.
Yeah, I just had a question. At the time, it was reported that these agents were looking for a sex offender. They had a specific name of the person, and that sex offender was already in jail or prison. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
It is correct, okay.
yes.
Is there anything more you can share about the other cases you mentioned that are open? And I guess it's also, have you heard from Mr. Tao, that you can share anything there?
We have been in contact with Mr. Tao, and we wouldn't be moving forward if he was not comfortable with us moving forward. I think he's in a place where he is an American citizen, which gives him, I think, more protections in terms of a fear of retaliation or things of that matter. And with regard to the other investigations, as appropriate, when we get to that time when we need to do something like this to inform the public about just basically what is happening and a call out for further information, and I think asking for publicly, to using the power of this podium, to request that information when that time is appropriate, we will do those for those other cases. But like I said, there are two active investigations. The Sheriff's Office has the one involving Scott Tao. There's a second investigation that is being conducted by the St. Paul Police Department. There is a CN on that, and there has been reporting in that particular case. I don't want to go into the details, but with regard to the active ones, we will do everything that we need to continue to advance these things forward. And then on the three preliminary investigations, we're continuing to support the victims and the witnesses in that case, and we are working with them. And when they get to a place, maybe when at a later time, potentially they'll want us to move forward with regard to those allegations as well, to seek the truth and to have some aspect or ability to make a decision about accountability.
So which one of you met with ICE, and can you characterize that meeting or those discussions with whoever, and who was it at ICE that you met with, if you could say?
Josh Adams, our lead inspector, met with ICE. I have, well, I'll come to the microphone, but I'm not going to bring Josh up here. I think it would be unfair to characterize those conversations. But this is our lead investigator, Josh Adams. We do meet with them at the monthly Sheriff's Association meetings. ICE usually has their representatives there. Now, the local ICE representatives are different than the people that were brought in, Bavino, Holman. So we meet with regular local people on a monthly basis at the sheriff's meeting.
So it's safe to say you didn't get very far in those conversations?
No, and I'm going to leave you with this letter. We didn't bring enough copies, but basically it was a February request. But I think the resounding thing that we hear from people we meet with is they do not have the authority to respond to our request.
The local folks?
The local folks. They do not have the authority to respond because that comes from Washington, D.C.
Do you have any more detail on what exactly happened that led up to these photographs? Was there a warrant? I was told he was not given a chance to close on.
Yeah.
I mean, can you go into detail?
Well, we haven't been able to identify a warrant. They certainly haven't given us indication that they had a warrant. There was no indication to the family at the time that there was a warrant. So we do not believe there was a warrant. However, the reports that we were requesting would be beneficial to make that determination, as well as to what the ICE officers were thinking. You know, who were you looking for? Once you determined it wasn't the person that you were looking for, why did you continue to take him out of the house? Why did you make a decision to not let the party get dressed, put some shoes on, be cold weather? And what was your thinking? And then, what did you interrogate him on regarding the hour plus that you were gone? All those facts, we don't know. We've talked to the victim extensively, but we don't know what the ICE agents are saying about this encounter.
Are you saying that they identified, they realized inside the house that this was not the guy they were looking for, and they still brought him out?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Well, here's what I'm saying. I've looked at the photographs of the person or persons they've later said they were looking for. No resemblance. Outside of the fact that they're Asian, no resemblance. But more importantly, we have the technology nowadays to do fingerprint recognition. It's not, everybody uses it on a regular basis. And ICE has been using facial recognition for quite some time. So they had numerous ways to identify the individual there before they brought him out of the house.
But you don't know if it was picking this house and Mr. Tao because of a visual resemblance or a name or address?
Well, I'm sure there's some type of address reference to the past. I mean, that would be an investigative tool, but you need more than that to get a warrant to go into a house. And of course, once you're in the house, and I've done this hundreds, if not thousands of times in my 47-year career, when you're going into a house, you verify who is in there. It is possible, we don't know. Maybe they wanted to leave the area because the neighbors were growing in numbers outside the house. That's not a reason to take someone out of their home, because you're worried about the response from the citizens.
Quick follow-up question for you. DHS has not responded yet to the TUI letters that Hennepin County submitted. So are you prepared to then convene this jury, Ramsey County jury, immediately after April 30th, when it's quite possible that DHS doesn't respond to your letter as well?
I think that that's a part of legal strategy and a part of the investigation that we need to cross that bridge when it comes. But having a TUI demand letter with a certain date is a critical thing that it helps and bolsters your arguments, whether we're going to be sued because we convened a grand jury. I mean, I just assume that that would be the response, that they would want to quash the subpoenas that we would have. Or if we were going to sue the federal government, whether by intervention in the federal lawsuit that already exists in Washington, D.C., or through our own lawsuit, that's just a critical step. So I don't mean to be evasive, but I just think that that is something that belongs to within the confines of the investigation. And I just want the public to trust that we will do everything that we can legally and explore all of those various options. This is novel territory, but like I said, the people up here, we're not going to let it go because we owe it to the people of our community and our state to seek the truth, to gather those facts, and if people are in our way, then we need to figure out ways to get someone to order that they are in our way and they need to step aside or cooperate. And so we'll do what justice requires.
We've got time for 2 more. Oh, we got time for more than that.
Yeah.
You know, we got plenty of time.
I think Bob's having a good time.
No. I just want to say that the issue you raised, Tim, the BCA has had trouble getting information since the very beginning. I mean, you all were here for the last 6 months, getting access to the scene, access to the cars involved. I mean, Drew Evans is one of the most professional law enforcement people I have worked with in my career. He's an outstanding, objective superintendent. He has tried, I've talked to him weekly, maybe daily during the height of this, and the frustration that they have in not getting access to the information is very similar to what John has articulated here. This isn't, you know, I don't know if rocket science is the right word with Artemis II, but this is very simple, common sense law enforcement. Share your information with other agencies so they can make a determination if there's a violation of the law.
And with the change now at the top leadership at DHS, have you seen any changes in responses or what you're getting from senior leadership?
I think it's a little early for that. I will say that I sense they're more willing to take a second look at some of these questions. And of course, you saw the recent release of the video regarding the third incident in Minneapolis. Of course, there's the good pretty issues, but then the third one where the alleged shovel was used on an individual, which turned out to be a bold-faced lie. So I think there is a recognition that, okay, it's time to revisit, what do we have? Did we cross a line? But, I mean, John and I are hoping to meet with the U.S. Attorney and have this conversation.
Sheriff, can you give us some context real quick while you're up there?
I was afraid you were gonna ask for that.
Yeah, well, you mentioned your 47-year career.
Yeah.
But you know politics, you know law enforcement. Give us context of, you had to do anything like this before?
No.
What does that tell you?
I take this job very seriously. The job of law enforcement, it's a public trust. And we're always trying to keep the trust and the faith of the citizenry that we serve. There was some damage done to our reputations as law enforcement on the front of this. It's no secret that I even went to the legislature and asked them to make only licensed law enforcement officers in Minnesota be able to wear police. Because most federal agencies wear FBI, DEA, ATF. This is the only other federal agency that wears police. But that wasn't going to pass a split legislative season. But we build trust, and obviously we lost a ton after George Floyd's murder, and we've been working the last 5 years to build that back. Thankfully, I think majority of the citizenry recognizes that we're not ICE. It took us a while to get there, but through the actions of ICE, they finally realized, hey, the police officers in Minnesota are not ICE. So I feel a little better about that. But regarding tactics, I've never seen tactics like we're employed here in my 47 years. It's all about professionalism. How your professionalism in Minnesota has been professional since 1978 when it adopted the post requirements. And we pride ourselves on professionalism. But this was to be expected. when you rush to hire thousands of agents and you give them 5 weeks of training, this was to be expected. The fact that they would not have the professionalized training that we do here. We require a 2-year degree of our officers with 1 year of skills training and another year of probation. It takes really solid 4 years for a police officer to represent the citizens of Minnesota. 5 weeks is all the agents working for ICE got. So this was all predictable.
Channel 5 and then Minnesota Deployment.
Just a little bit of clarity on what took place that day. You talked about how they were looking for a sex offender, and it turns out it wasn't this gentleman. Do you know yet when they knew it wasn't him that they had?
We don't. We don't have the reports, so we don't know what they knew. That's why we want the reports, because then how can make a intelligent decision about whether their actions were within the framework of what they do or outside.
In all your years at Sheriff Fletcher, is this frustrating beyond all belief, not getting those answers back after all these months?
Well, I don't, at this point, partly my years, partly my age, I don't get frustrated because I've pretty much seen it all. I get more frustrated that we couldn't find Cassie Hansen's murderer the night she was murdered at Jehovah Lutheran Church. And I've, seen a lot of death. But on our side of the river, there is minor frustration. On the Minneapolis side of the river, I would say major frustration by the law enforcement officers over there trying to get the facts as to what happened over there.
Attorney Choi, can you give us some background on how unusual a 2E demand is? Is this something you typically do when an investigation involves the feds, or is this something you only have to do after the fact?
Well, I've been in this role since 2011, and before that, I was St. Paul City Attorney. It's the first time my office has ever had to issue a 2E demand letter. And it shouldn't be that way. And as the sheriff talked about, there's just customs and practices of how we do things, and the base of that is through cooperation. And right now, that's not happening, and in fact, I would say that there's interference happening.
And when you're talking about the Ramsey County grand jury, that would be an investigatory grand jury, correct?
Correct. The grand jury has subpoena power, investigatory power, and so they could be convened, certainly to subpoena people, documents, to testify and bring certain things forward that the grand jury is demanding. And so I would imagine if a federal agent received a subpoena, the first thing that they would do is they would give that to their attorneys. And typically what usually happens is they will try to work it out with us, or they will try to quash that subpoena or remove the entire matter to federal court. We're in novel territory. We don't really know what will happen, but I'm just speculating about probably what happens. So that is one avenue, but there are other avenues as well, one of which is what the state of Minnesota, Hennepin County, and the BCA are doing with regard to commencing a lawsuit. Now think about this. In Washington, D.C. I mean, that is pretty unprecedented in and of itself.
Could you get a federal judge to convene a federal investigatory grand jury?
No, I think the U.S. Attorney's Office would have to start that process. But that is an avenue for fact-finding in the federal system. The federal system will use, for any type of criminal charges, they will use the federal grand jury system process, and that would require them to convene grand jurors, and then through that process do the investigation, seek out the information, and then make ultimately a decision. They do their charges by indictment, where in state court the custom and practice is typically by complaint. However, we can use the grand jury to also indict in the state system as well.
Can you talk about what some extra challenges there might be if the victim is not a U.S. citizen?
Well, here's some of the things that we've learned. I mean, obviously, there's a fear of retaliation, and it's real. It's real. I mean, first of all, something really traumatic has happened to you. And then at the same time, the belief, I think, where victims are going to be at is that, like, if I do come forward and I am going to participate in this investigation, my name will become public, and there could be further retaliation of me or somebody within my family or somebody that I love. And so that fear is real for the people that I think have experienced some of the things that we're talking about today. But my hope is that they do come forward, trust that we will have a victim-centered approach, trust that we will connect them to resources in our community, one of which would be having their own independent civil attorneys to help counsel and guide them through this process, and then make certain determinations. Because I think in certain instances, there actually could be more protections for victims that come forward through a criminal investigative process. I would want a private attorney to explain that to them. So that's the part that I think is still we're working on. And again, we're not going to move forward unless the victim wants us to, because we want to meet them where they are.
You mentioned you wanted a meeting with Daniel Rosen, the U.S. Attorney. Have you asked for one and gotten one?
I have had a meeting with U.S. Attorney Dan Rosen, and we've talked about some of these issues. We also talked about collaborating on a number of other things outside of all of this. And we're working on right now setting up a meeting with him, with Sheriff Fletcher and Chief Henry, to talk about some of these issues.
Can you share how Mr. Tao and his family are doing? Obviously, he's a U.S. citizen, but that doesn't take away from maybe the pressures of coming forward with something like this could be.
I don't want to go into the details about that, other than to say that he is willing to participate in the investigation actively, as well as the prosecution, and he understands that would require him to possibly testify under oath. But he's willing to do that. But I think he's in a different situation than some of the other folks that we have been in contact with. And I also want to thank just the many community volunteers and the lawyers who have volunteered or who are providing services from an immigration perspective and a civil perspective. That is so important. I think you just recently read about Judge Bryan having a decision in a case involving the officer that was involved with Renee Good's death. But through that, and some of the good work that's happening at the civil level on a prior situation involving a case in Bloomington, some of that information could possibly be coming out.